What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Walkoff. We are on Zoom today for the week because of ADJ testing at 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. But that doesn't mean that we can't have some fun. I'm Vince McCone, and I'm joined by the always amazing Anthony Walsh. Anthony, how we doing? Spring training's finally back. Started back yesterday now. And actually, I have the Yankees game up in front of me. Um, so if anybody else gets, hit in the head or a
Oh man.
call is reversed, then we'll be the first to report it here.
Yeah, that was a scary moment yesterday with Bobby Miller. I know we'll talk about that more, but what a way to start spring training. I mean, scary, obviously. I did watch a little bit of the Yankee game. I can't handle more than like 5 minutes of spring training if it's not the Mets. But it is cool to see, listen to Michael Kay, listen to the announcers back. It makes you get a little bit of that summer feel, even though it's like 20 degrees outside.
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I both are on the same wavelength of it's great to have baseball back, but at the same time, these games don't matter. And it's not like saying that, oh, games in April don't matter. No, 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 no. These games like actually don't matter. I really don't care what's on the screen right now. It's kind of just to like get me ready for what's next. Because
Yeah.
I know like I can watch a Brewers Reds game if I wanted to in the regular season, but if the Brewers and Reds are playing each other in spring training, I'm not going anywhere close to it. I'm probably just staying in the tri-state area over here. But we got a lot to talk about, and all around the league. But we're gonna start in the great city of Detroit. Or I apologize. We're gonna start in the great city of Boston. I wanted this guy to go to Detroit. He didn't. And I saw the deal that Detroit gave him, and he didn't take it. But Alex Bregman signs a 3-year, $120 million deal with the Red Sox. And I guess he's going to be playing second now. I couldn't really tell you. Kind of weird that they would move a Gold Glove third baseman over to second base. But when you have a third baseman that commits the most errors and then says, "No, this is my spot. I deserve to be here," you can't really change his mind. What do we think, Anthony?
Well, I'd be surprised if he's not playing third base. I mean, I know Devers said what he said, but Devers really has no legs to stand on here. I mean, he's terrible at third base. It just people don't really talk about it much because the guy's a good hitter, but then you go and look at his third base statistics or just his defensive statistics in general, it's bad. It just is. And I understand he's been there for a while. He's sort of the face of the Red Sox, I guess you could say, for the past few years. But if a guy comes in that's better than you and who's been playing third base his whole career at an elite level, I mean, you gotta do what's best for the team. And I thought that Bregman's response to the media was actually really telling. He said, "Look, I'm going to do what the team wants me to do," and that he could have easily had the same response that Bregman had because he has more of a reason to have that response. He's actually a really good defensive third baseman. So I think it'll work out where Devers will eventually accept being at DH and maybe splitting time with him at third base. Something will be worked out. I don't see it being a huge problem. I think it's Devers just more so trying to put a little bit of pressure on the front office in spring training, trying to as much as he can save his job at third base. But really, I mean, are you going to have Alex Bregman play at second base? Why would you have him play at second base when you could have him at the hot corner? He's only 30 years old. It's not like he's old. It would be stupid if they did do that.
So, who is there? My big question is, and I'm gonna check it. I should have been checking it while you were saying that, Anthony. But I think the biggest thing to look at is, I mean, first of all, I get it. Players want to play where they want to play, and they're gonna do everything in their power to play in that position.
Hmm.
My biggest question is, uh, like I would put probably Story or Sadan Raphael at second rather than put Bregman at second. I don't really see the reasoning or rhyme for that. I guess Bregman doesn't play short, but I feel like they could use him at the shortstop position. Devers, though, I my biggest thing is I saw Harold Reynolds defend Devers, and it's like you can't really defend the guy that has like the most committed errors at the position in the last 3 years. You can't really like I I full-heartedly cannot say like if Bregman was to come onto the Phillies, if he was to join the Phils, and then Alec Boehm was to say like, well, listen, this is my position. Like, this is where I'm going to be. I am not going to say, like, oh, yeah, Bohm should be there because he's never won a gold glove and Bregman's coming off of a gold glove a year. So, blah, blah, blah. Like, I get it. He doesn't want to move or anything, but you can move him to first, I would imagine. We've seen third basemen turn into first basemen.
Sure.
Vincent Casas is at first right now, and we could potentially see him DH with Yoshida, potentially. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not. I like Devers. This was a weird move by Devers. I don't know if I'm all for it. Because what, they haven't gone to the playoffs since Bogarts and Betts left, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Huh.
know it's been, I mean, they've been pretty average really ever since. And even if, I mean, you could go by most errors, if you're more into the more advanced statistics, it's outs above average is -6, which if you look on Baseball Savant, that's way in the blue on the left-hand side. It's really bad, essentially. So I don't, I mean, I get it. He's been there a while. He's a very good hitter, but you gotta move your position sometimes. You gotta just accept a fact as a fact. Bregman improves your team, like he just does, and you're in a tough division. You got to do everything for your team to win. And I don't know. I just thought it was a really selfish move from Devers. Devers is getting paid very well. You know, he really should have no gripe with the organization, but he seemingly does. I'm not saying he should be necessarily be happy about moving position or even. I'm not even convinced that if they were going to move him, would it be 100% of the time? Maybe Bregman would just split the time there, or maybe Bregman would play 70% of the time there. But I don't think he would necessarily would never play third base again. I think they just want more flexibility and they want the better third baseman to play third base. But Devers had, had his reaction to it. It'll be worked out though. If this is a problem for the Red Sox, then that's more of an organizational issue because if you can't handle one player that's unhappy about a position they're playing, then you got bigger issues than that.
I think that's entirely right. Now, my next question to you, Anthony. 40 million a year. He's being paid the same amount as Aaron Judge. Is that worth it?
No, no. I mean, as much as Aaron Judge defensively, I have my problems with it. I mean, Aaron Judge is one of the best hitters in baseball still. And I know Yankee fans are upset with him because of the fifth inning in World Series last year, and I understand it, and the postseason in general. I mean, he's been horrendous in the postseason his whole career, and if he doesn't have a good postseason the rest of his career, he'll be known for that. But
Mm.
still, the guy, I mean, he's the best hitter, one of the best hitters in baseball. So, nah, he's not earning that necessarily. But Bregman's still a very, very good player. And for a team like the Red Sox, which hasn't gone out and added a big player in a long time now, and didn't retain a guy like Bogarts, didn't retain Mookie Betts, this is a big deal for them. I mean, this is their Juan Soto type moment, if you want to call it that, as ridiculous as that sounds. So I think the player should be happy that he's there. And also, just don't create any drama for no reason. Don't be the Aaron Rodgers of the Boston Red Sox. That's my recommendation for Rafael Devers.
I think that's a good point. Um, I really can't get behind the 40 million though, and I think that's just kind of like everyone's gripe of, he's getting paid as much as the MVP. But that's fine. He also takes like a smaller contract, which I like for him. I saw the other offers, they posted them. And I think the Tigers, let's see. I'm gonna get it really quickly. I know the Tigers offered him like 6 years around there. Um, I think the same with the Cubs. They offered him 6 years, which I wasn't really expecting.
Yeah, I got it. So the Tigers were 6 years, 171.5 million with an opt-out after 2026, and the Cubs offered 4 years and 120 million with opt-outs after 26 and 27. So he opted for the shorter deal, with just a higher average annual value.
And as much as I wish he was a Tiger because that team could really use him, I'm not entirely angry that he didn't get it there. Be, because he's a good player. He's a good player. He obviously just wants to go to a team where, he can win again at. And on top of that, we're talking about baseball and, you know, all this stuff. Pretty cool that, one of the most hated non-Red Sox players by Yankees fans has now joined the Red Sox. So
I think the rivalry is going to be better than it's been in a long time because you
I think
finally have both teams pretty good now. I know the Red Sox aren't on the Yankees level, but still, Red Sox have improved. And this is a big bat. This is a big player heading to the Red Sox. We haven't seen that in a long time. I recently watched the 2004 Netflix documentary, like about
I
the.
don't know.
It's pretty good. I'd recommend it. It's like, yeah, I'm sure you know all of it, but it goes from '03
Yeah.
showing the Boone home run and '04 and the comeback and everything. And I couldn't help but sit there thinking, watching that and thinking, like, man, would it be cool to see something like that again? Like, imagine if you had another ALCS with the Red Sox playing the Yankees. Like, there's nothing better. Like, they had the fights and everything. Jason Varitek pushing
Mhm.
Alex Rodriguez. Those images last forever. So I think it's the best for the game because, like, even the World Series in '04 between the Cardinals and the Red Sox wasn't watched as much as the Yankees Red Sox ALCS. That gives you an idea. I know it's 20 years later, but still, that rivalry still can ring very strong if the teams are good.
Yes. And you want to know what I will say? Um, I think these teams are closer than a lot of people think on level of I don't competitivity. Um, I think the biggest difference really is just the bullpen for the Red Sox. They don't have a very good bullpen, to say the least.
True.
But like now you have Gold Glover and Bregman. Wilyer Abreu won Gold Glove in right field last year. He did great. Jaron Duran, I still like. A lot of I think the Red Sox definitely have smaller names, but they still have names on the list, and I think that's awesome for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to see that rivalry continue. I think we all are, um, because it's baseball's in a better place when it's going on.
I
Uh,
think it'll be interesting when we have our predictions episodes where we see those two teams shaking out when we go over the AL East.
yes,
I think that's a good. It's always fun when you talk about the rivalries when we do Mets Phillies. It's always fun doing that because you get to see where people are at with thinking about these teams. And the Red Sox and Yankees are closer than a lot of people think. The Yankees are better without a doubt, but the Red Sox are a good challenger for them.
I think so. I think so. I don't really think you can do it. But yeah, Anthony also brings up a very good point. Our predictions episode. So Anthony and I will be doing. Starting next week, we'll be doing I guess we'll both take we you could take the NL and I'll take the AL.
Hmm.
And we'll divide it up and we'll each take like 5 minutes to talk about each division,
Sounds good.
each episode. So let's start with the West Coast for our next episode.
Sure.
Done deal. All right. So planning live on air. That's the glory of podcasting. Um, and then some other big news. Your Mets, Frankie Montas is down for 6 to 8 weeks. And Jose Quintana is still in the market. According to one of our uh guests, Pat Ragazzo, who was extremely nice and came on the show earlier this offseason. But I mean, you have the full details on this, Anthony. What do you really think about this?
It's a blow for sure. I mean, you got 68 weeks where he's out, and then you got to go through a whole spring training. So it's really probably June being the month where he comes back, depending on if he goes and doesn't throw for 68 weeks and has spring training as another setback, then it could be even worse. So it's obviously really, really bad. But I thought that Pat Ragazzo's report about Quintana, who is still out there, and he's reporting that there's communication between the Mets and Quintana, and there's mutual interest between the two parties. I think that would be a pretty good option for the Mets. I don't know about you. I mean, I know he's not what he was. He's an older pitcher, but he produced. I mean, think about playing the Phillies in the playoffs last year. You know firsthand, he had a pretty good start. He did pretty well. He's not your ace. He's not your Jacob deGrom, but he'll go out there and give you 5, 6 innings of 1, 2 run ball. And he's consistent. He gives you innings too. I mean, it's another thing with this Mets pitching staff that concerns me is that Clay Holmes hasn't started a game in like what 7 years. You don't know what he's going to give you. Frankie Montas is now hurt. You don't know what he's going to give you. Kodai Senga is coming off of a major injury. You don't know what he's going to give you. So you need someone with innings. And I'm not saying you go sign him to any huge contract. You could probably get a 1 year deal done. I say get that deal done. It would make me feel a lot more comfortable about the Mets rotation because as of right now, I mean, I know there's issues with the Mets bullpen and everything. It's not perfect, but the Mets rotation is the biggest issue. I mean, the Mets lineup is one of the best in baseball. The bullpen still has Edwin Diaz, who hopefully could come back, and you have Minner, who's a solid backup option to him. But the rotation, I mean, Clay Holmes is starting his first Grapefruit League game tomorrow, Saturday, and we'll see how it goes. But it's a big unknown, and I know Severino and Manaea were unknowns too. but at least they had successful pass in starting. So, Clay Holmes doesn't. So we'll see. But I would be feel a lot more comfortable with Jose Quintana for sure.
Yeah, and just remind me, they got back Sean Manaea, right?
Yes, they did.
All right. So I like the Sean Manaea Jose Quintana mix. That was formidable duo in the playoffs for the Phils. So we'll see how that works. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't think the Montas injury is gonna hurt the Mets that much because I don't really know what he brings to the table. Like he had a 4.8 ERA last year. He's a little bit over 4 career ERA. Um, he's just like great. He was supposed to be a great player. Never really lived up to the hype, but I don't know. Jose Quintana, I think the Mets would love to have him back, and I think it would help a lot. All right. Spring training has started. We're back. Oh, while we're speaking of this, somebody just got hit in the head.
Really?
Would
Who?
you look at that? I was just about to say Bobby Miller.
Oh man,
My goodness.
we're cursing Major League Baseball. I don't know. This is weird.
All right, I missed what happened. Dun 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 dun. He got hit. Come on.
I'll look it up while you bring up Bobby Miller.
Anthony, why don't you talk about Bobby Miller and then I can
Okay,
up with him.
I'll talk about Bobby Miller. All right, basically a very scary situation, which hopefully with whatever's going on with the Yankees isn't scary. Hopefully whoever it is okay. But Dodgers pitcher Bobby Miller's in concussion protocol. A line drive hit him in the head, straight off the hitter's bat, right to his head in spring training, first game of the year. He did put out a message later that night on social media saying that he was okay, that he can't wait to get back on the mound. But I mean, obviously, any injury with the head, it's scary, and you never know what's going to happen. Hopefully, he doesn't have a concussion. The fact that he was able to get right back up afterwards was a good sign. But it brings back the argument of should they wear the protective hats. There was a Mets reliever actually a number of years ago that used to wear one of those protective hats, and he was kind of made fun of for it by fans and stuff, which is so stupid. But it was a big thing, like, oh, this guy's wearing a hat that has padding on it. But really, it could save someone's life one day. So it stinks. I mean, I don't know if you have an update about the Yankees situation, but hopefully they're okay.
I mean, he looks fine. It's Brew Baker, and it just looks he like turned around very quickly and just got hit on I think his throwing shoulder.
Oh, all right, then it's not the head. Okay.
It's not, and it was like the back of the shoulder, so not the worst thing in the world. But the Bob Miller thing was terrifying.
Yeah, yeah.
The first game, oh, and Bobby Miller is a guy that's like is trying to have a comeback season. He was up and down from the minors last year constantly. He had an 8.52 ERA in 13 games started. So like it's not pretty. It's not definitely not pretty. But
And also, I mean, we'll bring it up in a minute, but the Dodgers are going to have a five-man rotation for at the least, the first month or two of the season because of Ohtani's not coming to pitch till May. So there's a competition for that fifth starter, and Bobby Miller is one of the names that is in that competition. He's not a favorite necessarily, but if he were to have a great spring, maybe he gets that spot. And now, if he's out, I mean, we're not going to speculate how long he'll be out. Who knows? But if he's out for a serious period of time, that hurts his chances. So outside of the health issues, which is the most important, it also hurts his career out of something that was totally out of his control. It stinks. I mean, it's just I hope he's all right. Hopefully, he gets another shot for that fifth starter role. Um, but that's like to me, there is no wins and losses in spring training unless something like that happens. Unless somebody gets hurt, that's the loss of spring training. That's the only thing in spring training that I look at and say, man, like if only that didn't happen, who knows? But I guess we'll see. Hopefully it's not a nothing serious. It's a good sign that he was on social media putting out a message. That's for sure.
yes. Oh, great sign. Um, and it's good that he reached out. He looked like he was fine when he got up. Like there didn't look like there was any bruises or anything. I imagine there it was just like swelling up or just
Yeah.
like having shock of the moment and everything. But he looked like he's going to be okay. I know he's in concussion protocol right now, but he looks like he's going to be okay. And you're right, Anthony. Like, uh, it wasn't spring training last year, but Edwin Diaz got taken from the or was that 2 years ago
That
now?
was in World Baseball Classic a couple years ago. Last year was Senga who got hurt.
Hmm.
Time flies. And we got a World Baseball Classic coming up again in what, like another year or two?
And next year,
Next year. Yeah.
wow.
And Diaz wants to play in it. Oh boy.
And so does Aaron Judge. I heard he play for USA, but I don't know. I don't know. I I understand how you feel about players getting hurt. And I don't like players getting hurt either. I think the World Baseball Classic is a great tradition. Great tradition. We just saw how good the Four Nations was.
True. They had me
Uh,
watching hockey, and I never watch hockey, so it
that
worked.
I mean, like, did USA lose? Yes, it's fine, but like, it brings so much attention to a sport. And I mean, yes, there were injuries and some fans were very angry about it last time, but like it brings a wide audience to baseball.
It's true. It just stinks for the diehard fan because you worry about injuries. But the bottom line is it's a business and you need to attract new customers just like any other business. And that helps do that. So sitting here now, I could say, okay, but a year from now, I'm going to be complaining. I'm just going to be, if Diaz is back in the World Baseball Classic, I'm going to be worried. I'm going to be, this is going to go wrong for the Mets. Woe is me mentality. But I mean, you know me. That's how it works.
Um, Anthony, you kind of alluded to my next point here. Baseball is a business, and something that happened this week, that I'm going to kind of throw on the spot here. But we knew it was happening. But baseball opted out of their final 3 years, with the ESPN contract. Now,
Yeah.
I've heard I was awfully sad about this because we've talked about it before. Well, actually, Anthony and I have a class together, so we've talked about it in the class. But like, there's no more outlets for baseball after this year.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I mean, this is concerning because it's still in effect for this year. So after this year, it's going to be, but the thing is, they mutually agreed. Like ESPN didn't want it, obviously, and Major League Baseball said no. So I assume Rob Manfred had some sort of other plan, right? He wouldn't do anything without a plan. I mean, we saw how the lockout worked, but anyway, uh, I hope it doesn't go to some streaming service. And even if I have the streaming service, that's not, I mean, for the NFL, it's fine. I mean, the fans get angry anyway, but the NFL has such a market anyway that people will go and get the streaming service just for the game. Major League Baseball doesn't have that kind of audience. And also, the Major League Baseball audience skews older. There's older people that don't really have streaming services, and if they do have it, they don't know how to get the games a lot of the time. Like that's just the truth. So you're taking a part of your audience and you're throwing them to the side and saying, you know what, we're getting a big deal from Peacock or we're getting a big deal from Apple TV. Sorry, you don't know how to get the game. Listen on the radio. That's pretty much what you're saying. But if you get a weekly deal, another weekly deal on top of Apple TV Plus's deal on Friday nights, you're only making it worse. You're only making it harder for fans to watch the game. Nobody's watching baseball for the first time because baseball's on Apple TV Plus for Friday nights. Like I feel pretty confident in saying that. And nobody's going to be watching baseball for the first time because it's going to be on, say, Peacock Sunday nights or wherever. But the thing ESPN did, ESPN's widely available. It's on almost every cable package. It's everywhere. If anybody was tuning around the dial and seeing, hey, Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, maybe they tune in. ESPN usually got pretty solid ratings for Sunday Night Baseball up until the past few years, and it stinks. I mean, it was on ESPN for what, like 30 something years, and now that's done. And I really don't see any way that this is good for the game. I'd be very surprised if baseball pivots and makes it a positive.
I don't know how you can. I don't
Yeah.
know how you possibly can. Yeah, I mean, it's like I don't even know how to compare it. It's like saying, I don't know. It's
Well,
like,
it's like football. If Monday Night Football, ESPN said, you know what, we don't really want Monday Night Football, and NFL was like, all right, well, we'll go somewhere else. Now that comparison is faulty because the NFL is so popular, but imagine the NFL was on a little bit of a decline, like baseball unfortunately is, and then they took away Monday Night Football. Well, Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN is the equivalent because it's the same network, it's prime time. It's not as popular anymore, but 20, 30 years ago, Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, as much as I don't like it because I enjoy watching SNY, I can't deny that it was a huge event. So they're taking that away. Anytime you're taking prime, I mean, maybe they go back to NBC. NBC for especially during the 80s had primetime baseball every week, and Vince Scully would call it. Bob Costas would call it, and it was a big event. So maybe they'll go back to that. I don't know, but if you don't get a big deal like that where it's widely available for people on cable, because I mean, as much as people cut the cord, cable is still the main way people watch stuff. It just is. Almost everybody still has cable, even if they cut the cord. You still watch some form of cable. But so if unless they have a deal on, say, NBC, I don't see any way this is a positive.
I can't see it as a positive whatsoever. I like it's not even like, all right, well, we'll get Peacock, we'll be on Netflix, we'll be on this streaming service, we'll be on this streaming service. Like you're cutting ties with the sports network.
Yep.
Like it's not like it's not like, oh, I'm cutting ties with NBC Sports. Yeah, that would hurt. That would hurt a lot, but it's not ESPN. I mean, people still tune into Sports Center and they see what happened in games, and now they're not going to see baseball because it's not part of ESPN anymore. It's like it's going to be a very rough patch. And like to compare it, the NHL just got back I don't really know the name of it, but it's basically Sunday night baseball of hockey.
Yep.
And they just got it back, and now you see the hockey's on the rise. Now you're gonna see that baseball's leaving it. And I'm sorry, but 2 years ago, did you know anything about hockey? And did
No.
anyone even have an interest? No. It's because it wasn't even being streamed on ESPN. Baseball is gonna be in that exact same problem now. And it just I don't know what plan Rob Manfred has. And we've talked to people and like I always remember whenever we mention Rob Manfred, I always think of when we interviewed Dave Kaplan,
Yep.
professor here at Montclair State, and he said like Manfred is a businessman. He is not like there for the game. He is there for the business aspect of it, which is good sometimes, but sucks other times. Taking the A's out of Oakland, uh, all these rule changes, and then thank goodness that they brought the regular jerseys back now because I can't do the small lettering anymore.
That was terrible.
It's ridiculous. Oh yeah, we have different things now. I don't know. I don't know. I don't like it. I've never been a fan of it. Probably never will be a fan of it. But yeah. Now there's still a lot going on in baseball. But Zoom streams are timed, and I really wanted to get to this topic. So somebody just dropped something in my room. Uh, and I really wanted to get to this topic. Today, the Yankees announced that they are going to update their facial hair policy, and they're now allowing, quote, well-groomed beards to be allowed. I'll say this, and I want to hear your take, Anthony. I'll say this. I know a lot of people don't like this. I know a lot of people don't like, I didn't like the rule of, why do they have to shave their face? Why do they have to shave their face? Blah, 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 blah. All right. First and foremost, I'm a Phillies fan. And then I'm a baseball fan. All right. I'm not a Yankees fan whatsoever. But I love the idea of tradition. Tradition is and it wasn't a bad tradition. Like we talked again, we Anthony and I took a class together and we talked about bad traditions in sports.
Hmm.
Like, you know, the Redskins, bad
Yep.
tradition. Chief Wahoo, bad tradition. What in the world how was shaving your beards a bad tradition? Like that was fine. I have no problem with it. I thought it made the game unique. All right. When you think of the World Series, when you think of like the Yankees, it was always fun to think about, like, oh, no beards. Like they look a certain way when they come onto the field. They look clean shaven. They're very like, they're Yankees. They're Yankees.
They have that we're better than you
Yes,
mentality.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, And now they don't anymore because they're gonna have well-groomed beards. And first of all, what is like the stance on well-groomed beards? Where does that come in? Um, what in the world? Oh, we have 10 minutes left. Um,
I know.
uh,
I never seen this before. Now they're timing us on Zoom. Jeez.
wow, wow, we don't like you, Zoom. Uh, to quickly end this off, so I can hear your point, Anthony. Uh, I hate this new idea. First of all, again, Hal Steinbrenner, what are you doing? If I was his dad by this point, I would have done like I've been rolling over my grave for years now. What in the world was going on there? And why? Why was it ever going on? It's absolutely ridiculous. I cannot get behind it, and I'm really, really never going to get behind it. But Anthony, also very weird timing for it. I mean, like we just started spring training. Everybody just shaved their beards for media day pictures, and now you're like, all right, you can have them.
Yeah, I mean, I saw like a funny tweet on this. I don't know if I know you're a Seinfeld fan. I'm a Seinfeld fan, and they put, if Seinfeld was still around and George Costanza, was on the show still, and he had to go explain to the players what a well-groomed beard meant, that would be a great episode of Seinfeld. And I thought that tweet was funny because that would be a great idea. But anyway, yeah, I always thought it was just a stupid rule to begin with. I think it was an antiquated thing. Like I think Sebastian Sports Corner on WMSC, he asked me a question about that. I think he asked you, right?
Yeah,
Question
for
about,
sure.
and I told him, I'm like, you know, this is something that made sense like 50, 60 years ago because like, that was the baseball player was clean cut, clean shaven, this is we're better than you, New York Yankees. We win World Series every year. I mean, I didn't like it, but I get it. But when you haven't won a World Series in 15 years and you've been the joke of the league for the past 2 years with, losing every year in the championship series and last year in the World Series, well, you kind of lose that mystique you have about you of we're the almighty Yankees because they're not the almighty Yankees. They're not the 27 World Championship Yankees anymore. They're the 0 World Championships in 15 years Yankees. So I don't really, I mean, for frankly, I really don't care. I mean, they could do whatever they want as long as they lose. I'm fine with it. But I also think that it's a step in the direction of like we're even going further away of the days of Garrett DiMaggio. If you even want to go to Jeter, they're not those Yankees anymore. If they start winning again, sure they will be. But they have to win. That's the like if they go win World Series, nobody's gonna. They could have a Duck Dynasty level beard. Nobody will care.
I mean, I don't think I've met a single person that's like, oh, it was a good rule, except for myself, which is very telling, I guess. But I don't know. I like tradition. I like that tradition. And the other thing was I always like the Red Sox were like these scrappy guys, these big beards, and like I always think of like Johnny Damon when he was on the Red
Yeah.
Sox, big beard and long hair. Then you'd verse like Jeter. It's like very
It
clean
was
cut.
like David versus Goliath. It was the underdog
Oh,
versus, yeah. So
like it was fun. It was fun. But that's I guess that's in the past now. Why not? For sure. Um I really don't like I was talking to my roommate, Ryan Nussbaum, and he was telling me, he was like, you're telling me if Otani was to take a like friendly contract that was way on the Yankee side, and all he wanted was to keep his beard, would you say yes? And I said, no, no, I'm not telling you to, no, that's stupid. Why would no, no, no. I really don't think it's that hard to shave your beard for a couple of years. Get over it. Who am I to
shave your
tell?
beard in protest, Vincent. I think you should, you
I really
should
should.
send a
I really
statement
should.
to
I know,
Steinbrenner.
I know, I know. I'm like screaming that they should be shaving their beards as I have a beard.
There you go.
Uh, yeah, yeah, but I'm not a Yankee. I'm a Philly by heart. So that's my protest. Um, we are coming to the end of our show, though. We want to thank you all for listening once again. We will be back in studio next week. I don't know. I really don't know.
They're doing more ADJ tests.
I think so, but I don't. So my biggest thing is we're out of studio today because of ADJ testing, but there's still testing next week. So I don't really know what's going on there.
Well, we'll see. We'll be back sometime on the air. Sometime. We'll see.
We'll be back at least in 2 weeks. Well, I don't even know about that because that's the first day of man. We will be back on air soon.
We'll get
Rather,
it done. We'll get it done. We'll make
I
sure
think
everybody.
we'll do an episode in studio and we'll
There
figure
we
it out.
go.
All right, folks. Thank you for coming, and we will see you next time here on the Walkoff.